Thank you so much. What I really want to do is reflect on these three amazing speakers, and my mind is slightly blown. And I think it's important to say that we're really talking about questioning power structures, and you've seen three white men so far. But Nick has been very clear that he really wanted to diversify the panel. I tried very hard to find a female colleague, but no one's available, so got me. And I also want to thank very much everyone who's made this possible. Not only the funding has gone behind it, but there is a sort of wave of incredible discussion around homelessness. And I sort of joked about it on Tuesday, but I think no university is doing more in homelessness than Roehampton. And I'm beginning to think it's really true. I don't know, I've travelled a lot and I haven't come across a university that's doing so much, so may that be a self-fulfilling prophecy will happen. First, a quick anecdote. I was working in a centre in Luton as well, Noah Enterprise.
That's where I was a chaplain.
Great, a few years ago, and so it was full of nuns at that point. Sister Bridie was there, and I was working for different charities, Streetwise Opera, putting on operas with homeless people, and Sister Bridie said, "Is it that guitarist that usually comes in, where is he today?" And I said, "Well, why are you asking?" And she said, "I may be a nun, but I have eyes." I was talking about Tom, who's very, very good. I started in homelessness, a passage night shelter, alongside many middle class, upper class volunteers, and then became a member of staff. My first day I was mashing potato with the Duchess of Kent. I mean, that was like a perfect example of what homelessness was like in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And it was incredibly transactional, and everyone was very kind and everyone was very supportive, but there was such a massive cavern of power imbalance. I could evict someone as an early 20s idiot just out of university, and people were genuinely scared and were being treated by, a hot meal, and everyone was giving themselves a pat on the back. And it never really felt right. And yet, what I want to say is how important it is to transition from charity to something that's much more shared and more meaningful, and going through stages, which we're seeing with this unstoppable momentum of co-creation and homelessness, about working with people, not for them. And this is very exciting. I mean, we've heard a lot of the problems that have happened, but I can see that the home sector, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not about ignoring charity, it's about bouncing from charity to co-creation, and then something more to do with sort of an asset-led approach. But I was at this centre, and one night one of the residents read out a quote from a politician who said that the homeless are the people who step over coming out of the opera house. At the same time, I was doing one night a week at the night shelter, and I was an opera critic, travelling around the world, reviewing operas. It's a dirty job, someone has to do it. So everyone said, "Well, you work for opera, why don't we stick two fingers up at the establishment and be in the opera house, and then they can look up to us instead of knock down on us?" Really compelling, I was thinking about a risk assessment of this, but highly dangerous, incredibly exciting political statement. And we somehow got hold of the opera house, they gave it to us, hats off to them, and we put on a show where everyone wanted to work backstage at that point. And it transformed the centre, people were being asked about their ideas, their opinions for the first time. There was some laughter, the dynamic was different, people had a different identity. So instead of a caseload of 6 homeless guys, where I would go through this stage of, where are your forms, basically. The conversation was very different about what opinions were, about their creativity. And then it's messed up massively by after everyone was all the audience was standing on giving a standing ovation. One of the guys bounced up to me and said, "What's next?" And I was like, "We did it. You did it. There's nothing next." This is the thing about art, and this is why I've devoted all of my career to the power that art can give to show you what's good about you, what's strong about you, not what's wrong about you, about well-being, about resilience, about agency, about the power to show a different side of yourself, to remind yourself that you have incredible skills. So I thought, right, that is a massive more swearing than shit. Okay. So he started the charity Streetlight Opera, which went on for a few years. In a sense, with that problematic hierarchy of just a lot of kind of very able graduates working in charity, and I was doing brilliant work, and I'm not knocking it, but there was something always wrong. Then the Olympics came along in London, and to their credit, they said, let's put on a platform for those people. In previous Olympics, people have been shut out and cleansed from the streets, cameras come in, very much like projection of like beautiful cities. But they said they didn't want that, they wanted to make sure that there was like social issues forefront of the conversation. They did that partially really well. So we put on an event, gathered together like 300 artists who've been homeless out of 30 charities. Put on an event. That became a bit of a movement. We did it in Rio, we've done it in Japan, and this is now a network, a movement of arts and homelessness, Arts Homelessness International. And what I wanted to do right this time, the second charity, was to, on day one, make 50% of the staff on board for people who are or have been homeless. I think a sort of hark back to a previous era. I'm going to hand over the directorship to someone, to a colleague who's been homeless in time, and we're going to co-create it together. And we use arts now, not just for those sort of personal benefits, but to challenge power. So we work a lot with councils, local councils now, to use theatre, a methodology called legislative theatre, where groups, half of whom are homeless people, half of whom are council staff, put together plays based on the challenges they see in front of them. So you might see an improvisation of a housing meeting where someone's saying, look, I'm not priority need, but I'm desperate, and the housing officer saying, I want to help you, I'm getting shit from up high from the ministry, I can't give you help, but I really want to. And then finding out ways to navigate those problems. Now, sometimes, particularly with no recourse to public funds, it's really hard. But what happens after it is that those groups of people begin to make solutions together. So in various councils, we've seen that the result has been that more homeless people are being employed as council staff, and there's now a sharing of power around decision making. So decisions are now shared around homelessness policy, and the councils we've worked with are shared between homeless people and council members. This, I feel, is a demonstration of unequal distribution of power across race, across sexuality, across gender, and the solution seems to be, in order to make space for power, you need to step aside. And so we're using, in our small way, our tiny way, arts practice in order to sort of challenge that. And the next challenge, at the beginning I was saying, I think it's something about that incredible, important charity work. And we're seeing what's happening in Ukraine. It's urgent people get supplies, and that charity just happens no matter what. One-way charity, that has to happen. And then we need to challenge ourselves collectively, what's next? And that's not just doing that forever, which has unfortunately been happening, partly through the church, partly through charities and big charities that absolutely agree are really culpable in keeping people in poverty. Absolutely, and they need to just own that, and many of us need to really call that out. But also that sort of feeling of what can happen around co-creation and around sharing power and having conversations and asking people what they want and giving people permission to have that power. And then what we're looking forward to now, and just before handing over to Justin, who is on our new leadership program for creators who've been homeless, is what assets have you had after this horrendous traumatic experience? Because it is true that if you've gone through homelessness, that dark, awful time, what you are left with is incredible resilience, empathy, networking ability, communication ability. Joe from Roehampton blew my mind the other day, Joe Fleet, who said that in a 2019 study on businesses, the number one thing they're looking for is resilience. Standing right in front of us is this opportunity to change the narrative about people who've got problems to people who've got skills, from what is wrong about us to what is strong about us.